Hey everyone, it's Justin, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have some fun underwater inspiration to share with you using new products from scrapbook.com. I'm going to be pulling in this Coastal Charm shape die set and focusing on using the octopus shape, who's going to be the focus of the card. In addition, I am also going to be pulling in some additional scrapbook.com products, including the coordinating Coastal Charm rub-on transfers, the hooked on use stamp set and coordinating die set, and the nested notched arch die set as well. These are going to help build the different elements to make our card really pop. I'll be pulling in the Festive Duo Smooth Cardstock, Tropical Smooth Cardstock, and Seaside Pattern Paper collection as well for our card. Let's start with the Tropical Smooth Cardstock. I am going to be pulling out the yellow paper, the orange paper, and then also I will be pulling in the pink paper as well. And these are some really good standard colors to be using. While this set is called Tropical, it gives me a really good example of primary and secondary colors to show to you. The next paper pad I want to show you is the Festive Duo Smooth Cardstock, and I am going to be pulling in the light blue, medium blue pattern paper. Remember, there are two different colors depending on what side you use, and this is going to be the base for our water background. Now lastly, I'll be pulling in the Seaside Pattern collection. From this, I initially thought I was going to be using this checkered pattern that's on the front of this piece of paper, but I actually decided to flip it over and use this wavy pattern as well because I think it's just going to work better for our card. Now with our paper selected, let's begin the process of building out our octopus. So I am going to use the bottom layer of the octopus, which is the thicker one, and the thinner upper layer, along with a couple embellishments for the face as well. So I am going to do the yellow from the top layer, the orange is going to be the bottom layer, and then I am going to use the pink cardstock in order to do the heart and also the blush elements for our card for the little octopus. I do also end up pulling in a piece of black mixed media cardstock from my stash, and this is going to be to die cut the eyes for our octopus image. I processed them through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine, and then here you'll see I do have all of my items ready to go in a stack and sort tray for easy assembly. Now, I didn't want to get too excessive, but I did want to do a little bit of ink blending, so I'm pulling in some Wild Honey Distress ink to blend on top of my yellow octopus layer. I decided to use the Altenew mini blending brushes because these just work really well when you want to apply ink with a little bit of detail. So I do go in, add a little bit to our octopus. I like to use oranges or darker yellows or even browns to distress yellow cardstock because I think that it gives really nice shadowing effect. And Wild Honey is one of my favorite distress colors, so I knew I wanted to grab that to really make this yellow extra special. Now, I did want to do a little bit more ink blending, so I pull in the Candied Apple Distress ink with my designated red ink mini blending brush, and I blend the edge of the little heart that we had die cut from pink paper. Red works really well as an ink blending color on top of pink cardstock since they're so closely related. Now I'm going to start putting all of my elements together using a combination of craft tweezers and also my Misty Precision Glue Press to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of our top octopus layer. Here you'll see how I start to layer everything together. I do put that yellow layer directly on top of that orange layer, and it just really all fits together so perfectly. Now, for the little eyes and the rosy cheeks, I recommend putting little dots of adhesive onto the layer and then using some sort of a craft pick tool that has a sticky or waxy end to it to help put those little embellishments into place. Some of us may be lucky enough to have agile enough fingers that we can delicately pick these up and put them into place. I am not one of those people, so I do like to rely on a sticky sort of craft pick tool to get everything nice and situated with small little die cuts like these. And the stack and sort tray really does help keep everything together with those small die cuts. Lastly, we are going to nest the heart in the little lower left tentacle of the octopus, and I just think it's that one little special detail that really helps make this image pop. Now, for our next element, I'm going to pull in the nested notched arches, which I also think are like fancy popsicle dies in just the way that I look at them. And we are going to die cut just a simple shape from this using the second largest die from that light blue festive duo cardstock we pulled during the earlier of this video. So I'm just going to put this right on the panel. It takes up most of the panel, so I don't really care too much where I put it. Tack it down with a little bit of mint tape, and of course process it through my die cutting machine. Once it's all cut out, I am going to grab some Mermaid Lagoon Distress ink with a Pink and Main ergonomic blending brush and carefully start to blend the bottom edge towards the top edge of our nested notch die cut. I love these ergonomic blending brushes for covering large areas of ink because it's really hard with these to get those streaky, harsh lines that you can sometimes get when ink blending. This adds a very small, gradual amount of ink to your paper. We're going to also add a little bit of Uncharted Mariner ink as well. This is going to be applied to the bottom and blending into the Mermaid Lagoon Distress ink, but it's not going to go as far. This is going to help create an ombre effect using the different inks, and then it's also what I like to call a shortcut in order to create an ombre because we're using the shortcut of a pattern paper, which the color of the pattern paper acts as like a third color since we're ink blending right on top of it. Now, because I already have ink that's on my glass mat, I'm going to water it down and splatter it onto my card. This adds some really great detail to the panel, and then it's also already on my glass mat, so I'm not using any sort of additional materials to make this happen. After I'm happy with my splattering and I set it aside to dry, I pull in the Coastal Charm rub-on transfers, and we're going to utilize this for a couple little details from this set. So we're going to cut out a couple fish. We're going to cut out the bubbles as well. We're going to get those out in a second. And I think these are just really fun shortcut methods to add those details to your project, because the alternative would be to build something from the Coastal Charm die set, which would be equally as adorable, but also this saves a lot of time and I don't really have that much real estate to work with. So we're just going to do these rub-on transfers because they're so cute. I love this little wave element as well, and this is going to add some fun ripples to our water. And then, like I said, I am going to cut out these little bubbles to add those to our panel as well. And all of these are going to work together to make a super fun scene. I just love how this all ends up coming together. Now, applying rub-on transfers are really easy. They come with a mini popsicle stick in the back of each pack, and you can put the rub-on transfer, cut out your shape, put it on top of where you want it to transfer to, and then carefully apply pressure with your popsicle stick over the backing of the rub-on transfer. And I always recommend very carefully pulling the rub-on transfer off because sometimes you find not all of it transferred to the paper, and that's okay. If you already have some of it still touching the paper, you can very easily get that rub-on transfer back into place and make it really easy to put the rest of that image on. So I've got my two fish. I did end up adding a jellyfish to this as well, and we've got some ripples for the water. And lastly, I am also going to put in those little bubbles we talked about. You can also layer your rub-on transfers, like you can see that green fish is on top of some waves, and that's a super easy element to do as well. Craft tweezers also can come in handy when it's hard for your fingers to pick up the backing of the rub-ons. Now I'm just going to kind of start to map out where I want everything to lay for my card, and I'm actually going to offset my nested notch die cut that we had prepared because I think it's going to work better for my sentiment and it's going to create a nice big spot for something bold. So I've got an idea about what I'm going for, and we're going to start preparing our sentiment piece. I do have a piece of scrap yellow paper from the tropical cardstock that we had prepared earlier in this video. So I'm going to use that and I'm going to stamp out the sentiment, "You Octopi My Heart," from the Hooked on You stamp set. And don't forget, we have coordinating dies as well, so that's going to come in super handy. So as I prepare my Misty, I did decide to stamp this out in some ginger ink from Catherine Pooler Designs. I thought this would play really nicely with the orange that is in the octopus, and it's stamped perfectly on top of this yellow paper. I love how Catherine Pooler inks just really have a fantastic sort of ink coverage, especially for sentiments. So I die cut out my sentiment and then I decide to add a couple bit more elements to our card. I grab some of the pink heart rub-on transfers that were included in the Coastal Charm rub-on transfers because I thought on the left side of my card I could use a little bit more embellishment just to occupy some empty space. So they put really nicely on top of the pattern paper, and I do remove the backing to have two little hearts in the lower left corner, and I decide to also put one of the larger hearts in about the upper mid center of the card, right under where my "You Occupy My Heart" sentiment is going to go. With these elements all in place, I can finally start assembling my card panel. So I decide to use liquid adhesive on the back of our nested notched arch die cut. And like I said, we're going to kind of offset this, that it's going to be on the right side of our panel in portrait orientation. I also decided for our octopus that I'm going to use some foam tape strips on the back of them. These are some 3mm foam strips from scrapbook.com. They're 1/8 of an inch thick. I still have to cut some of them down a little bit because some of the areas on this octopus are a little bit narrow, but I love these foam strips. They work so nicely, and I also decide to incorporate them for our sentiment as well since I had a little bit of excess tape, but I had extra laying around and it just had to get used for this. I love how it looks. I love how foam tape makes special elements of your project really pop. It makes the octopus and the sentiment stand out from our background, and it's going to give a great focal point for our recipient. Now, with all of my foam tape into place, we can start to put everything onto our card. So, of course, you're going to remove the backing of your foam tape, and then I decide that my sentiment is just going to be absolutely perfect in the upper left corner of the card. Now, it is going to overlap some of the wave rub-on transfers that we put on earlier, but not too much of it. It's still exposing a nice piece of it to the right, so nothing is getting too covered, and it looks everything intentional. I also place our octopus in the lower right corner of the card. You can see that edge of that heart is right up against that lower corner of the card, and it just fits so perfectly right over there. With most of our elements into place, I'm at a point where I can now put liquid adhesive on the back of our panel and adhere it to an A2 size card base that I prepared in advance. So I still have a couple more things that I want to do, particularly my embellishments. And with my embellishment choice, it's easier for me to put my panel onto my card base first because we're going to be using some royal blue pops of color, which are going to need some decent amount of time to dry. I start putting little clusters and even some individual standalone pops of color in this royal blue coloring onto our panel just to sort of fill in spaces that I think could use a little bit of extra pop. So I like to operate with a rule of odd numbers. So I do use a total of, I believe it ends up being 7 pops of color. I end up going back in and adding a couple to the top near the "You Occupy My Heart" sentiment. And then after I get my pops of color nicely into place, I do recommend tapping the back of your paper to help flatten them out. Also, make sure that you have this card rest somewhere that it won't be interrupted so it can dry fully. And once my card was fully dry, it was also fully completed. I had so much fun showing you today the new Coastal Charm collection items from scrapbook.com, along with some really fun paper selection that you can use to make your under the sea creations really pop. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also be sure to follow me on all socials at Justinote by Justin. For your shopping convenience, I do have the shopping links for the products used today listed below, and using those links helps support me as an artist at no additional cost to you. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today, and happy crafting, everyone. Goodbye.